In this episode of Building Legacy, we travel all the way from Atlanta, Georgia, to New York City, the city that never sleeps, home of the Brooklyn Bridge and Times Square, the birthplace of hip-hop, the Statue of Liberty, the Museum of Modern Art, Central Park, and dozens of other iconic spots.
When we arrived in New York City, we stayed at the Immaculate Intercontinental Hotel. And as luxurious and accommodating as the amenities were there, we are here to speak with two very important people.
Okay, so we are finally here
With the pews!
You couldn't contain yourself.
I couldn't. This is one of the most anticipated interviews.
Yes.
Because,
Yes.
You guys are so treasured by us.
Yes. Yes.
So
Thank you,
yes,
guys.
This is,
Thank you.
no, thank you.
Thank you indeed. Thank you indeed. And as we said before, you're my father and you're my mother, and we couldn't have Building Legacy without you guys. We really couldn't.
That's right.
We really couldn't.
Absolutely.
And so it would just be a travesty for us to not have
Right?
invited you guys on
That would make
for
no
this.
sense. That would make no
Yes,
sense.
not at all. Not at all.
So, what is building legacy? May I say Ma and Pop? Is that okay?
Yes, sure.
Okay. Of course. Yes.
Or should we say Mr. Pugh?
Anything else?
No,
sounds
no,
strange.
no, son.
I
No,
know.
son.
No.
No, it's daddy. No.
Okay.
Yes.
But yes, go ahead. I'm
Okay,
sorry.
well, it's your show. You want to answer that one?
Sure. I'll jump in. And I must say I'm godly proud to be here. This is exactly what the fruit of building legacy is. And it's something that I really could not have even imagined. I'll start from the beginning. Having children
Yeah.
and thinking about what I wanted to instill
Yeah.
in my children. As a young mother, there was no guarantee I was even going to realize to see my children into adulthood. So it was my prayer that to keep everyone safe.
Yeah.
It was my prayer for all my children to know the Lord. I said, if I give them nothing else,
Yes.
I could give them the inheritance of salvation.
And that's the legacy.
Building legacy doesn't mean do what I say, not as I do.
Right.
We really have to step it up and really attempt to be the best model that we can
Yeah.
while bringing our authentic selves.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's my answer.
Okay.
Nice.
All right. And Dad, you want to add to any of that?
And legacy also is being there for my kids as a man, as a man. Because unfortunately, there are a lot of, absent fathers, for whatever reason. And I feel like children need their parents. Not parent, but parents. Because just a single parent, it doesn't bring balance. Balance. And I think we all need balance. Everything shouldn't just be one side. It should be balanced, in everything you do. And I think that's what I brought to the family. I brought balance. I brought balance, and the legacy is you're doing great as my son. Your other brothers and sisters are doing great. Everyone's doing great, and that's what I'm proud of. And that's my legacy, to be there that way when you guys grow up. Like right now, you have your family, and you're there for your family.
Yeah.
You're there.
Yeah, I do think that says a lot, because sometimes I think nowadays there's this idea that, at least for fathers, that fathers don't have to be there, that they can father from a distance, or they can parent from a distance. And I just personally, I don't believe in that. You know, sometimes there's a co-parenting situation and they say, well, the father, that is, they'll say, well, you know what, me and the wife are just working things out. She's in that state, I'm in this state, and I'm just seeing my... That's not the optimum scenario or condition. It may sound hard, but I believe, look, if you're in a co-parenting situation, wherever your child is, that's where you need to be. So if the mother and the child moves to Alaska, you need to plan to move to Alaska. But I say all that to say, I know I agree. I think you being there is a message that you've instilled in myself, and I'm sure my brothers as well. And I'm sure my sisters also look for men who will be there as a standard.
That's right. Yeah. Even myself, you know, coming in very early into the family, I'll say when you say part of my legacy is being there, being present, I've witnessed you truly be present. I'm wondering if you can share some of those ways that you remember being fully present as a dad.
So my legacy is basically trying to improve the lifestyle of the next generation. I personally never experienced that. I never experienced that. And I always, once I had kids, I said to myself that, no, my kid's gonna get a different upbringing than I had.
Yes.
And I did miss my dad being there. I mean, he was there, but he wasn't there.
Okay.
So, and I said I would never do that to my kids. I know the feelings personally that and the effects that it has not to have balance. Yeah. And just give me an example not to have balance is because I remember growing up, I never heard the word, I never heard the word, I love you.
Wow.
I never heard that. I never heard that from my mother and my father. And I don't know, maybe it was the way they was brought up, but a child needs to hear that. Yeah. And I felt like I wasn't really important to them. But I found out later on in life, that's why I say we're never too old to learn. I found out in life, later on in life, what love was. I never knew what love was until I met my wife. She was the first person that ever said that I love you. I had to learn, but I had no clue what it was until I met my wife. Wow. So that's why I said you're never too old to learn.
Wow.
And that was the first one I ever heard, I love you. And I make sure I tell all of you, as you was growing up, I love you. I don't know if you remember. I always said it because I never want anyone to go to.
And still say it.
Right.
And still say it.
And just, you shouldn't have to experience that as a child. Just in case if you guys, anyone wants to know, how do you raise 10 kids in New York? Well, this is how. I don't know if you can see this up here, but I'm in front of my union office, Hotel Trades Council, Local 6. And the reason I said the union is because the union provided livable wages for me, which I was able to take care of all my kids, free health care for all my children, and a host of other benefits that we have. A lot of people counted me out when I was younger. Oh, you have 10 kids, how you gonna do it? How you gonna do it in New York? But you have not because you ask not. And God will supply all your needs. And the need was for me to take care of my family, and that need was met.
And my husband is a great advocate. He is a labor. He helps everybody.
Social justice.
And when you talk about legacy, building legacy, all of our children from their first jobs, they knew their rights because he instilled that in them. He helps neighbors, other extended family. There's people on our jobs. He's always helping people, empower people to know their rights. So, and he travels the whole country advocating for workers' rights. So I'm very proud of him, and it is a blessing that this job that paid a livable wage was able to sustain our family and give us stability and create legacy.
And my legacy to my kids is to teach them the labor laws, to know they have rights that can't be trampled on, and to exercise that. That's very important.
Tell us how it was raising 10 children.
Yes.
Oh.
Because I'm sure a lot of people want to know, how does
Yes.
one woman deliver 10 children?
And look like this.
Oh my goodness.
Well, I had something to do with it also.
And be so successful, and
Yes.
all of them be so successful. I'm sorry.
No, that's
To God be the glory.
Amen.
Yeah. To tell you how, I would need much more than 15
Yes, I'm sure. I believe it.
I want to say it was a partnership, and it was a village. And when people ask me that, I remember to the point of Daddy being present. He would come home from work, and if I was home all day, there was times in our relationships when I worked or when I was stay-home mom.
Yeah.
And the times that I was a stay-home mom was the most difficult for me because everything, you don't get coffee breaks, you don't get time to go by the water cooler, you don't get the commuter time where you get the downtime. Everything's just always constant.
Yeah.
And sometimes he would come home and dinner wasn't cooked, and he was just so empathetic. I could say there was never a time, and we've been married 36 years.
Wow.
Not one time did he ever come home and say, "Where's dinner? What's going on?"
Wow.
Instead, he would come home and just start cooking.
Wow.
He would just start cooking. He was just cleaning.
He's patting himself on the back.
Yes, he would
deserves a pat.
he would play with the kids, and I don't know how he had all this energy. And then he would tell them to go to bed, and they would actually listen to him. Me, I spent my time screaming and yelling, acting like a mad woman,
Oh my
and no one. They
goodness.
would just play, and I would hear them playing upstairs. But when Pop came home, he did what he had to do and put everybody. So he was very, very, very present, and even. You was going to say something.
I was going to say, what a definition of partnership.
Yes.
That's true partnership there.
Yes.
Hearing the empathy, you're initiating where it's needed, where you see the need and you're filling it in. And
Yes.
that's true support. Wow.
No, it is true support. But I'm going to be fair. The disciplinarian was pretty much. I did my share, but Mom, she really disciplined him. I was more the soft.
I don't know. This
I was
this
more.
sounds a little. I don't know.
I was more. No. I was more the soft one. Let me give you an example. How when the kids would do something they were supposed to do.
Can I give the example?
Yes.
I know
yes.
this is your interview.
Yes,
but can I
son.
give the example?
Yes.
You were there.
Yes.
I never forget. There was one time, and this was Dad's discipline. But I think this speaks to the balance that you were talking about, that both of you had. You got the belt. I remember getting the belt. And I wish I had a belt here that I can demonstrate. But let's suppose my hand is the belt. And what you would do is you would tell us to hold out our hands. And then I'm not exaggerating. You would just go like this. Just as soft.
Oh my goodness.
Just like that.
That would say cry.
force. And then you would tell us to cry.
Because I was in the next room expecting to cry.
Right.
And that satisfied me that he was taking care of business.
That's called creative partnership. Yes, the story about the painting.
Oh, yes. So, just another example of how Pop was present.
Yes.
It was time for me to go in and for labor to have a baby.
Yes.
And every time I went in, it wouldn't feel. And he knows how meticulous I like things. Things have to be very clean.
And really quickly, you said every time you went in. So was this the the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth, the sixth.
It was all of the above.
It's definitely the
9
times.
It sort of reminds me of LeBron going to Miami and saying, "We're going to win championships. Not one, not two, not three, not four."
Man,
No, but
yes,
I'm
I like
sorry,
that
go ahead.
reference.
each of the times
Yes.
that I went in,
Yes.
and what he would do is paint. He would paint the room, and he would do a total, just everything. So whenever I came back home, I came home to freshly painted
Wow.
rooms, and the wherever the baby was gonna be was
Yes.
done nicely.
Wow.
And that was just a consideration for
That's
me.
what I do.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm telling you, you're setting the bar really high.
Indeed.
So husbands and wives that are watching this right now, the wives are probably like, look, we have one child. You have no excuse. This is what she's probably saying to the husband.
Right.
This man, 10 children, is painting rooms.
That's right.
Every child.
That's right. Comes home from work and goes and cooks.
Right. And
Yes.
and you're coming home from work doing this, right? Not
Yeah.
complaining. Not
No,
so-
I do that
Wow.
because you have to understand. I figure that my wife, so they go through so much,
Yeah.
and I understand my wife. She goes through a lot. She went through a lot.
Yes.
You know, with 10
And
kids.
so I think
Sure.
what I'm hearing is you're attending to her.
Right.
You're attending to her.
Yeah.
And I'm also hearing in you attending to her, I'm also hearing that you're being empathetic. That you're being empathetic to the changes that she goes through.
No,
Yeah.
you have to. I mean, that's just who I am. That's why I think our marriage lasts so long because I was compassionate to what she was going through.
Yeah. You know, that makes me think of the word sacrifice. You know, I've seen you guys make so many sacrifices, especially for you, Ma, and you both have. I remember there were times that you shared you had big job opportunities, money-making opportunities, and you know, you've made the decision to stay with the children versus doing that, or even school midway, you paused to raise the children. Tell us a little bit about the sacrifice and how that plays a role in this legacy you've built.
Yeah, so I remember when I met my husband, your father-in-law, when I was 14. So I was a kid.
Wow.
Right? He was in high school.
Yes.
And I remember him saying he wanted 5 girls. And I said to myself, he's out of his mind. what girl's going to give him 5 children in the 80s?
Right.
Because I was totally career bound.
Yes.
And I did have full scholarship to, at the time, New York University.
Wow.
And
NYU.
NYU. And I was onboarded while I was at NYU into a very prestigious consulting firm.
Yeah.
The number one in the world. And I was doing well. And at the time, your sister Shatina started calling the lady who was watching her mommy.
Oh boy.
And that's when I said to myself, I have to prioritize what's important for me. What's the legacy that I want to leave? And I said, I have to invest in my children.
Yeah.
So I quit my job. We moved to Georgia. We simplified our life. And I remember feeling like I gave up so much of me to be this other person who I didn't plan to be. But because I did commit to marriage and having children, I had to commit to motherhood and to being a wife. And I remember seeing, reading in the Essence magazine, there was a woman who was an executive, and she said you could have it all because she was a mother, she was an executive, and she had, went to school, did everything. And I remember saying to myself, wow, how is she making it happen? And it was not until years later that when I had an opportunity to go back to school as an adult and as a returning adult, and I remember walking through the doors, and at the time it was Fordham University, and I took whatever entrance exam, and then
And you had a scholarship there too, didn't you?
and that's the miracle, because the person who was onboarding me to their program said, would you mind waiting a semester?
Yeah.
So I looked, why would I wait a semester?
Yeah.
And they said, because we would like to offer you a scholarship. I said, I could wait until you want me. Well,
That's
so
right.
I picked that up, and I remember saying, God is such a good God. There's nothing that I give up to serve Him. Everything that if a person allows the Lord to order their steps, there's nothing you give up. There's so much. You're just positioning yourself for a blessing.
Amen.
And so you can have it all. That's the moral of the story. You can have marriage. You can have family. You can have career.
Yes.
But not all at one time.
And this is another element of our building legacy is education. We're here on the campus of Columbia University, and this is where I chose to finish up my master's after coming from Fordham with my bachelor's. And we're here together because this is exactly how it was done together. I was the student, but it was through the support of my husband, for the most part, working to afford us to live in Midtown, 1 block south of Central Park South. And this decision to return back to school really was not something for myself, but it was a decision to complete and be a model for my grandchildren. And I realized that what I do, good or bad, is going to be impacted by my children and my grandchildren and their children. So I chose Columbia University for that reason. They could show up in any space and succeed and do it with excellence. And I want to say the partnership that made it work, not everyone has that. And there might be people that are watching us, and what I want to say is it takes 2 willing people to be able to move it forward. And I have just been blessed to have this man in my life that was willing to partner with me. And I thank God that God connected us both, and we fought and are still fighting to make it work.
And I approve that message.
It is a blessing to be here at this point in time in our life. And I have to be brutally honest with all of you, because it's my intention to really leave this earth being honest in a way that will help others. And how we do that is not to come with our faces made up and pretend like we have always been where we have arrived. Building legacy also meant to me and means to me that I didn't start this from scratch. I had my mother, my grandmother, people in my family, men in my family who sacrificed. My great-grandfather raised my grandmother. And because there were such strong people in my family, I came into a marriage very young, and I thought that if it didn't work, I could just raise my kids on my own. And I know a lot of people may think that that's what can happen and not invest in marriage, but I want to encourage you. There's going to be challenges. Disney did the worst thing they could do with Happily Ever After. It doesn't exist. It's work. But I thank you for loving us so much and not giving up, even when it was challenging. So actually, babe, one thing I just wanted to mention as a takeaway that I really wanted to share with everyone is that everything wasn't roses. That Disney happily ever after doesn't really happen, and that you and I, it really took a lot of work. Marriage is work, and there might be a lot of young people out there that are willing to throw in the towel, and they may feel that they don't have the person with them to build a legacy. And I want to encourage that person to say, the person you're building legacy with is God. It's not that person with you. You're building legacy with God. You're being obedient to God, to what He has for you. And if God is saying stay, if you're not hearing go, don't go. Because if you stick it out and really work on it, there's so many blessings waiting for you. And I think that is what I was always ready to throw in the towel and say I could do this on my own. And I didn't realize all that was waiting for me if we stuck in there and just served God and listened to God. And I'm just so grateful that we did.
And I approve that message.
Now there was just one last thing to do before we left New York City: street food.
Yeah, baby. Oh, yeah. Don't get that gyro. Oh, yeah. Terrell, how you feel about your gyro? That you about to eat?
It's that, and that's right. It's a gyro,
It's a
not
gyro.
a hero.
Not a hero. A gyro. It's a gyro.
It's a gyro with a capital J.
Capital J.
No, think about it. It's a gyro because it's, what do they make them on? They make them on gyroscopes. They don't make them on Euroscopes. They make them on gyroscopes.
Teach him, baby. Teach him.
So the meat that comes off of a gyroscope is a gyro.
Teach him. Let's see what this looks like in here. Oh, yeah.